Hi, I'm Mark Donovan from HomeAdditionPlus.com, and today I'm going to show you how to make a simple garage workbench. Okay, the first thing we're going to do is cut two 4-foot lengths of 2x4. Next I'm going to cut two lengths of 21-inch 2x4s. Now I sandwich the two 21-inch 2x4 lengths in between the 4-foot lengths of 2x4, and what I'm doing is I'm marking a line for the width of this 2x4. And what we're going to do is make another mark 3.5 inches over on each of the 4-foot long rails so that we can take a chunk out of each rail to create a lap joint. Now what I've done on the 4-foot rails is create another line such as a 3.5 inch mark. And I put an X over it. I'm going to use my circular saw and cut a 3/4 inch depth notch out of this length of 2x4 here and on the far side. I will make many notches with the circular saw and then knock it out with a hammer and clean it up with a chisel. So now with our skill saw blade set at 3/4 inch deep, we're going to cut grooves in between these lines, many of them, and then knock them out with a hammer. And using your hammer, you just knock them out. With the bulk of the material removed, we can just take a chisel and just clean up the notch so it's nice and clean. And we'll repeat this process for all 4 sections that we've marked with the two 4-foot rails. Alright, now that we've notched out the 4-foot rails on either side for the legs, we're going to now cut 4 36-inch long legs, and again we're going to notch out a 3/4 inch by 3.5 inch wide section from the legs so that we create a nice lap joint here on all 4 corners of the top of the bench. Alright, so now we're going to cut the legs to length. Again, the legs are 36 inches in length. Line it with our chop saw. Legs. So now what we're doing is we're marking 3.5 inches in from the end of the leg. Use our square to make a straight line. Put an X there, and again we're going to take our circular saw and make many cuts along this length of the 2x4, 3/4 inch deep, and then we'll take our chisel, a hammer and chisel, and clean it out. And now we'll have a nice lap joint to go into the 4-foot long rails of the top portion of the bench. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to cut a bunch of grooves 3/4 inch deep at the end of the leg of the workbench rail. Now just use a hammer and tap it out. Now we'll just clean up with a chisel, and we'll do this for all 4 legs, and then we'll be ready to assemble the workbench. So I'm going to apply a little glue to my lap joint on both sides, a little wood glue. And I'm going to fuse them together, they go together very nicely. I'm pre-drilling the holes for the screws. I'm using 1 1/4 inch screws to marry this lap joint together. I want to pre-drill the holes so that I make sure I don't split the wood. Once we have the frame all put together, I'm going to then drill another hole and put a carriage bolt in to really make this a rugged frame. Now that I've pre-drilled my holes for the screws for the lap joint, I'm putting in 1 1/4 inch exterior screws. And I'm making sure I do not over tighten. And I'll repeat this process for the entire 4 legs and 4 rails, or 2 rails. And then I'll connect the side ends together to begin to put the structure together. So now I'm going to attach the center rails to the end rails, or the 4-foot long rails. And I'm going to first again pre-drill holes, and then using glue and 2.5-inch screws attach the 4-foot rail to the 21-inch section. Now all we're doing is just pre-drilling the holes for the screws to attach the end rails to the 4-foot long rails. Apply a little glue. Put in a drill bit, and then attach our screw. And we get a nice tight fit without splitting the ends. That's the goal here. So now that we've completed the basic rail system and legs, we're going to put a center section of rails in as well now, so we can have both a top surface and a center surface for storing material. So now I've built an inside frame that's got two 45-inch long lengths and two 18-inch lengths. And I'm going to glue and screw these together, and then this will sit inside the legs of the workbench. I've taken my mid-frame, inserted it between the legs of the workbench, and now I'm just going to attach it with some 2.5-inch exterior screws to the legs. And once we complete this, we'll be ready to put the top deck on and a center deck. So with the basic frame all put together now, what we're going to do is just reinforce the lap joints with a carriage bolt in each of the 4 top joints. So now we're going to pre-drill a hole for a 5/16-inch carriage bolt. Tap the carriage bolt in. And then we'll put a nut and washer on the back and we'll be all set. So we'll put on the washer and nut on this last carriage bolt, and then we will be ready to install the plywood on top in the center section. Don't want to over-tighten, else you'll split the wood. And that should do it. Alright, so we've completed the frame now, and I've also cut 2 sections of 3/4-inch plywood, one for the top deck and one for the middle portion of the bench. And I'm going to complete the fastening of screws all around the perimeter of the plywood, putting them in every 6 to 8 inches using 1 5/8-inch screws. So that's it. We've completed our garage workbench. It only took us about 2 hours to build and about $50 worth of material. And I have detailed instructions, plans, and still photographs in an ebook on my website. So if you want to build your own garage workbench, visit us at HomeAdditionPlus.com today.